reflects on a point in his life when he had no hopes, no dreams, no love, nothing, and thought his life would stay that way forever. But then, one day, he got the chance to start over. A breaking news report in Tokyo, April 2022, announces the Hollywood debut of actress. Just watches in silence. A photographer scolds him, calling him an idiot for holding the reflector too low and telling him to smile better next time, while the young man apologizes. He reads on the screen that apparently San will be moving to America soon, raising questions about the future of her love life. A coworker comments that not long ago was just one of their fellow cast members, but now she's making it big in the world. After all, she's always had tremendous talent. Another man points out with a grin that, unlike her, even though they're the same age, is still working a part-time job for peanuts, and asks him not to be mean. The coworker insists that guys like him can only dream of reaching this level, forcing to agree with a weak, I guess. While another person cheerfully says that it was his classmate in high school and that they were really good friends, thinks to himself that he could never tell them that. He knows they simply wouldn't believe him and would call him a liar. Overhears a conversation about how he's going to marry another celebrity and how nice it must be to have a famous husband. He remembers that even back in high school, she was working hard to become an actress, which eventually led to her Hollywood debut. At 27, is still a freelancer, with no relationship and no career, just working day after day as a poor part-time employee. His boss scolds him, saying that after all this time working for him, hasn't improved one bit and that all his photos are useless. With a shocked look on his face, the man brutally declares that he simply has no talent at all. Looking out at the city at night, laughs in resignation, thinking that maybe it's true and that he can't see his life ever changing. His phone displays an ad for his new show. He sighs, staring at the screen, thinking about how every photo he takes is garbage, while a billboard with her face lights up the street. The name echoes in his mind as he gazes at her image. Daydreams about confessing that she had long wanted him to know she was in love with him. He reflects with a melancholy smile that it's a shame they barely spoke at school, wishing had told him that. Then imagines what might have happened if he'd had the courage to talk to her more and get closer. Looking up at her billboard, he thinks that maybe his life would have been different. Sighs, telling himself there's no point in thinking about what-ifs now. As he thinks that he can never go back to that time, a mysterious voice behind him says that yes, he can. Startled, turns around with a surprised "A" and tries to run down the stairs. He shouts as he trips, seeing a strange figure at the top of the stairs, exclaiming in surprise. Suddenly wakes up, bothered by the bright light, and panics at the thought that he needs to get to the studio as he searches for his phone. Confused, he pulls a flip phone out of his pocket, wondering what it's doing there. Wonders if the phone is broken since the date on the screen, April 20, 2012, is completely wrong. Suddenly his dog appears and the young man is stunned, asking what he's doing there since he hasn't seen him in years and he should be in. Then realizes that the place looks just like his home. When he sees his reflection in the door, the boy screams in pure shock. He panics upon noticing that he's wearing his old high school uniform and that his face looks much younger, without the dark circles he used to have, wondering what's happening. Finds himself on a familiar path beside a river and a bridge. He wonders if all this is a dream, recognizing his and questioning what he's doing there. A female voice interrupts him, saying they need to go to the committee room today. It's who turns and calls him by name. Completely shocked, he shouts her full name and replies with a timid yes, surprised by his reaction. Asks why he suddenly shouted her full name, while the boy wonders in disbelief if it's really her. As the girl urges him to hurry up, panics, questioning what she's doing there and whether they're in the middle of a photo shoot. Confused, he asks where they're going and, tilting her head, asks if he's still half asleep, wondering where else they would go. With a faint blush on her cheeks, she explains that they're heading to the library committee room so they can work. Repeats the words library committee room to himself in confusion. Explains that they took some work home yesterday and will continue together in the room today, which makes him remember that he really was a member of the committee back in school. A faint memory surfaces, another girl complaining that she didn't want to do school work and reacting in exasperation. Then realizes this is a memory from something that happened 10 years ago. Remembering that last time he simply ran away makes him abruptly apologize, leaving completely surprised. She asks if he thinks she won't be much help, to which the boy nervously denies it. Realizes that if this isn't a dream, it means this is his chance to be with, and he eagerly says he'd love her help. The familiar high school building appears before them. As they enter, a smiling teacher greets them with a good morning, and another woman responds in kind. He walks down the hallway, hearing fragments of other students' conversations about the previous day and their homework. Suddenly, a classmate greets him with a slap on the back, startling into a shout. The boy jokes with a grin that he must have left his brain somewhere on the way to school. He then tells his friend to pull himself together and agrees, still a bit dazed. The memory comes back to him that is his childhood friend who went to high school with him. Looking at the other students, finally accepts the shocking reality he has truly gone back 10 years in time. Two classmates greet, saying they saw her in a magazine and that she looked really cute, to which the girl thanks them. She smiles with a slight blush on her face. Watches the scene, thinking to himself that even back then, she was already quite well known. A mysterious figure in traditional clothing approaches him from behind and slips a shiny object into his pocket without him noticing. The boy looks surprised when a younger student comes up and pleads, "Please." Other girls join in, insisting it's just an autograph and that they've always wanted one. Patiently explains, as she's done many times before, that she's not allowed to do that without her agency's permission. Remembering his future life, thinks about how this kind of fan would also show up all the time during his photo shoots. The girl tries to refuse once again, but the fans persist, promising they won't tell anyone. Tries to step in to help her, but he's abruptly cut off by one of the girls shouting angrily that they're talking. Mentally scolds himself, terrified, thinking about how scary girls are, before remembering that he's an adult now and shouldn't be afraid of a bunch of teenage girls. With newfound courage, he apologizes to the fans and says that has committee work to do at the moment. He pulls her down the hallway as the other girls yell at him, calling him a brat, and, surprised, agrees to go with him. With his heart racing, thinks to himself that he actually stood up to them. After all, he's an adult. When they arrive at the library preparation room, the girl starts to say she didn't expect him to do that. Turns to him with a shy smile and a blush on her face, thanking him for helping her earlier, leaving him speechless. She then changes the subject, saying they should get to work and asking him to grab a box, and the boy nervously agrees. Turns completely red and stunned, barely able to believe that just thanked him. They then sit at separate tables in the room, working quietly on their tasks. The boy watches her, still dazed and slightly blushing, thinking that he still can't believe this isn't a dream. Notices that he's staring at her and asks what's wrong, making hastily deny that it's nothing. He feels tense, thinking about how the last time they were there, he barely spoke to her, and how awkward it'll be to work in silence. Watches her work, noticing how she's really focused on her task. Suddenly, he blurts out that she's pretty clumsy, which catches her completely off guard and makes her blush deeply. Asks in disbelief if he just called her clumsy and covers his mouth, apologizing for speaking without thinking, while she confirms that yes, he definitely did. The girl tries to defend herself, blaming the stapler, but he points out that all 5 stacks of papers look terrible, to which she responds defensively that so what if she made a few mistakes. Still blushing hard, she apologizes for being clumsy. Tries to fix the situation, saying he wasn't blaming her and that nobody's perfect, he just never imagined she'd make that kind of mistake. Suggests that she'll stack the sheets while staples them this time, and afterward she'll put them in the box, and he agrees. The boy then asks her to promise not to tell anyone that she's clumsy, and agrees emphatically. Asks with a warm smile why he would ever tell anyone, leaving her momentarily speechless. Comments that must be really good at office work, and he asks in surprise if she really thinks so. With a smug grin, he replies that, well, he thinks he's at least better than her, and the girl insists that the problem was with the stapler. She complains that he's being really annoying today and laughs, apologizing while clearly enjoying the moment. He remembers that back then, he had to work with twice a month. The boy recalls that, since he never imagined he'd be that close to her, he was always nervous, and they often ended up taking the work home to finish separately, unable to talk as naturally as they are now. Suddenly, the fish-shaped charm in his pocket begins to glow, and a voice says, "That's good." An invisible force pushes him forward, making him yell in surprise. Falls on top of who ends up on the floor beneath him. The girl lets out a scream, and he frantically apologizes, panicking as he realizes he can't get up. With her face flushed in embarrassment, groans in pain and demands that he stop fooling around and get up immediately. Panicking, the boy yells that he can't move his hands and that it was all an accident, wondering what on earth is happening. Beneath him, the girl is visibly flustered and thinks to himself that this situation is really, really bad. The thought of someone seeing them and spreading rumors about terrifies him, making him realize he needs to get off her right away. Thinks in horror that he never, ever imagined doing something like this to the girl he liked. With sweat on her face and tears in her eyes, she whispers that school rules forbid relationships and that they shouldn't be doing this. The boy decides he needs to move away now, before he starts getting strange ideas. With a sudden effort, he finally manages to push himself off her. Barely has time to celebrate being able to move when he's suddenly pushed forward again, accidentally kissing her. Calls him unbelievable, completely shocked and blushing, while he collapses to the floor, apologizing and saying he doesn't know what came over him. Horrified, laments having done something so abominable to an actress and thinks he can say goodbye to his social life, while, blushing, stammers that she'll take full responsibility for his actions. She then says she'll finish the rest on her own and that he can leave now. The boy insists that he wants to help, but the girl yells angrily for him to go away right now. Devastated on the floor, wonders why things ended up like this after he finally managed to talk to, concluding that there's no way he can change his life. She, on the other hand, thinks sadly that she thought they could finally talk normally. Sitting on the floor, the boy wonders why that happened, remembering that he felt something pulling him toward her. The mysterious girl from before suddenly appears, calling by name and saying that he has her to thank for that. Startled, he asks who she is and where she came from, noticing her clothes and ears and wondering if she's a. The girl introduces herself as but says he can call her. He asks if she means of the 7 gods of fortune, and confirms, adding that among humans, some even call her the goddess of love. Declares that, as the goddess of love herself has come to personally help him on his path to love. Asks in confusion what she's talking about, and the goddess tells him to watch closely. She reveals a fish-shaped charm, presenting it as one of the tools of love, the snapper of closeness. With a smile, explains that the snapper brings him closer to the person he's thinking about the most, while the boy wonders when the object ended up there. He begins to understand, questioning whether what happened earlier was the charm's power pulling him toward her. The goddess laughs mischievously and asks how it felt to touch the object of his affection so intimately, proudly crediting the feat to her magnificent snapper. Irritated, accuses her of being the reason now hates him, but confidently replies that it's nothing a sincere apology can't fix. She explains that he was the lucky one chosen among the most unfortunate souls, and that's why she decided to give him a chance to fix his life. The goddess reveals that even with her power, she couldn't fulfill his romance unless she turned back time. Then points at him and tells him to take a look at his left hand, leaving the boy puzzled. Looks at his left hand and sees glowing threads wrapped around his fingers. Explains that she didn't simply send him back to his youth to relive the past, revealing that those are the red strings of fate. The boy is told that he has 1 year until graduation to fulfill his own romance. This task must be accomplished with the 5 candidates destiny has chosen for him. The goddess declares enthusiastically that with her help, they will make the springtime of his life come true. Then the 5 girls destined for are revealed. Points at him, proclaiming that together they will make the spring of his life a reality. It's hard for the boy to believe, but he's now in the past with and dealing with a goddess and fate itself. He asks what she means by destined candidates and why there are 5, and the goddess admits she originally planned to choose only 1. Then explains that she assumed he would fail on his first attempts, so with multiple candidates, he'll have more chances even if he messes up. Warns him that he has 1 year to tie his fate to one of the chosen candidates, or he'll return to his miserable life, where will become another man's wife and remain forever out of his reach. The memory of reading the news about San's upcoming move to America and the rumors about her love life flashes through his mind. He reflects sadly on the thought of being forever beyond his reach. The boy admits to himself that, in any case, he never really thought he had a chance with her. He remembers how, back in school, he could never find the courage to talk to her, even pushing her away. Realizes that maybe now is his chance to make things right. With newfound determination, he pushes himself up from the floor and declares that he wants to change his life. The goddess worries that at the rate this simpleton is going, he won't confess to any of the girls anytime soon, and if he fails, it means she fails too, resulting in her banishment. She decides with frightening intensity that she must make sure he succeeds no matter what. As the goddess assures him that with her help and her tools of love he will definitely succeed, interrupts her and refuses the offer, saying thanks but no thanks. Reacts in disbelief, asking why he would refuse and whether he doesn't want his confession to succeed, while the boy insists that he appreciates the chance, but that's not the issue. Firmly declares that unless he does it by himself, it's meaningless. The goddess laughs and mocks him, calling him a cherry boy and saying they both know he'll never achieve anything without her help, leaving him utterly embarrassed. She urges him to drop his foolish pride and let this goddess help him succeed in love. Annoyed, the boy snaps back that her useless trinkets will only help him fail faster and that he doesn't want to be some lucky pervert. Grows furious at the audacity of a mere human, shouting that her tools are divine and infused with the power of the gods. Angrily, she yells for him to go ahead and fail if he wants, see if she cares, making think she's acting like a child. Looking down at the threads of fate in his hand, he reflects on the ultimatum: find love within a year or return to his miserable life. A new determination rises within, as he realizes he has no choice but to move forward. The first thing he decides he must do is apologize too. Watching surrounded by friends, thinks to himself that he'll apologize as soon as he gets the chance. He feels nervous and decides it might be better to wait until there are fewer people around. However, time passes and he still hasn't found the right moment, much to his amusement. The goddess confronts him, calling him a coward for having spent an entire day without managing to say a single word to the girl, mocking his so-called pride. The boy asks what she's still doing there, worried that someone might see her, but reassures him that no one else can see her and that she has exactly what he needs to help him. With excitement, she presents another tool of love, the seed of the legendary cherry tree. The goddess explains that with this item, they'll grow a special cherry tree under which any confession made will be accepted. She warns him that the seed only works once, so he has to make it count, and begins planting it in the ground as tries to stop her. The boy insists that he doesn't need her tools' help, but the goddess completely ignores him, adding a bit of holy water and demanding that he listen. As calls out to him, proudly declares that the stage is set and urges him to confess, but panics, shouting at her, calling her a stupid goddess, and demanding that she get rid of the tree. Says she wanted to talk to him, but gets distracted when she asks if that cherry tree had always been there, while the boy, panicking, desperately tries to change the subject. With a sinister smile on her face, watches the scene unfold. The goddess suddenly shoves him hard from behind, shouting for him to confess, causing him to fall onto the startled girl. Groans in pain, completely embarrassed as he ends up on top of her. He panics and apologizes profusely, while, flustered, thinks in dismay that it's happening again. As the girl wonders why this had to happen again, especially since she was just about to apologize, he runs off, shouting that it was nothing. A classmate asks if he saw that, and as the boy stammers out a yes, yells in panic that it's not what it looks like. He then turns to the embarrassed girl and asks if she's interested in acting. Confirms that's what she wanted to talk about and begins to explain, using the example of a girl she knows who's just a rookie actress. With a sad look, the girl explains that this actress wants to challenge herself to become a professional, but everyone around her is against it, saying she has no talent. Asks what he thinks the girl should do, whether she should give up as well. He suddenly realizes, shocked, that the girl is actually talking about herself, that becoming an actress is her own dream. Reflects that last time, she never asked him anything like this, which means he's already walking a different path from his original past. Calls his name, snapping him out of his thoughts, and he answers, a bit startled. The boy knows for certain that her dream will come true. He knows she will become a brilliant actress unlike anyone the world has ever seen. The memory of his own pain chasing a hopeless dream, of being told he had no talent, haunts him. He thinks that there's no guarantee every dream will come true. Then tells her that he doesn't think it's a good idea to chase a hopeless dream. With a melancholy smile, the girl agrees, saying she thinks he's right. As walks away, telling him to forget it, tries to stop her, insisting that that's not what he meant and begging her to listen. Frustrated, wonders what he's doing and why he still hasn't confessed, deciding to use another one of her tools. While is still trying to get attention, the goddess trips and accidentally spills her holy water at the base of the cherry tree. Suddenly, a gust of wind and a flurry of cherry blossoms sweep through the air, startling both of them as they look up in shock. Asks in disbelief how the tree is growing, as one of its branches twists and extends before their eyes. A branch suddenly coils around the girl's waist and yanks her violently, making her scream as calls out to her in panic. Terrified, the boy demands to know what has done, and she stammers nervously that it was an accident. Trapped by the branches, struggles and cries out, asking what's happening as she realizes she can't move. The girl screams for it to stop when one of the branches tugs at her blouse, exposing part of her underwear. Demands that the goddess do something immediately, but tearfully admits she can't, she doesn't know how to stop it. Irritated, yells what she means by that and, crying, shouts back that it's her first time too and tells him to forget it and just think of a way to help. The boy wonders if he's really the one who's supposed to come up with a way to save her. He panics completely, having no idea what to do. Is trapped high up in the giant tree that captured her. The goddess screams for it to do something quickly, but he shouts back in frustration, asking what exactly she expects him to do. Caught in the branches, the girl realizes with difficulty that she can't move at all. Desperately demands that use another one of her tools, anything, but the goddess admits she can't think of an appropriate one. She panics, not knowing what to use or what to do, wishing she had a manual for her tools. Realizing that if the tree grows any further and falls, she could die, understands he has to save her right now. With determination burning in his chest, decides that he cannot let that happen. Reflects on how earlier he told that he didn't think it was a good idea to chase a hopeless dream, when in truth, he had wanted to support her and encourage her to keep going. And yet, he couldn't say what he truly felt. The boy regrets not being able to tell her that he liked her. As suddenly exclaims that she's found a solution, runs toward her, asking if she's figured out a way to save. The goddess explains with a smile that while the holy water sped up the tree's growth, there aren't enough nutrients to sustain it, so it will soon wither and die. He realizes that when that happens, the girl will be freed. Suddenly, the branch holding begins to creak and crack. The girl screams in terror as the branch snaps completely and she starts to fall. Lunges forward, shouting her name, panicking as he realizes he won't reach her in time to catch her. He clenches his fist in despair, wondering why things had to end like this, just when he finally had the chance to make everything right. With S's name on his lips, remembers her calling his own name. Suddenly, the fish-shaped charm in his pocket begins to glow. He's thrust forward and manages to catch the girl in his arms just in time, shouting her name in surprise. On the ground, worriedly asks if he's okay, and the boy replies that he is, asking in return if she's hurt. She thanks him and says she's fine, and answers that he's just relieved she's safe. He then tells that he wants to talk about her dream of becoming an actress and asks her to just listen to him. With newfound conviction, reveals that he wants to become a cameraman, leaving the girl visibly surprised. He confesses that, even so, whenever he thinks about all the ways he could fail, the fear is so overwhelming that it makes him want to give up. But still tells her that it's pointless to give up without even trying, and that if you truly want to do something, you have to give it your all. Says passionately that is still young and that her potential is limitless. She laughs, finding it funny that he says still young as if he were older, which makes him visibly embarrassed. Tells him not to worry, saying she wouldn't give up even if he asked her to, but she still hesitates for a moment. The girl then turns to him and thanks him, leaving him a bit confused. With a bright, determined smile, she declares that she'll do her best. Then adds that, for that reason, also needs to work hard to become a cameraman. She challenges him, saying he can't tell others not to give up and then give up on his own dream, after all, he's young too. Realizes she's right, this is his chance to start over. With newfound determination, he promises that he'll do his best as well. Nods with a gentle smile and begins to say, then let's. Runs ahead with an expression of surprise and determination on her face. Completely red-faced and sweating, stammers in panic. She asks if he saw anything and the boy hurriedly denies it, insisting that he didn't see anything, not now, not before, leaving confused by his mention of what happened earlier. The girl's face turns bright red from sheer embarrassment and shock. Shouts that she's going home and orders him not to follow her, while wonders why things ended up like this again. Turns to and says firmly that none of this was his intention. Crying, the goddess sobs that she only wanted to help and never meant to hurt. He comforts her with a gentle smile, saying he knows she was only trying her best, and thanks him with tears in her eyes. Then states that from now on, he doesn't want any unnecessary help, and that she must never use her weird tools again, leaving the goddess stunned. Furious, starts hitting him, shouting that he's blaspheming against a goddess and reminding him that it was thanks to her tools that was saved, while the boy groans in pain, pointing out that she's also the one who caused the situation in the first place. Sighs, exhausted, thinking that it's only his second day since going back in time. He reflects that he's glad he managed to get closer to, and that they agreed to work toward their dreams together. However, he feels terrible when he thinks about everything the girl had to go through. Appears and asks why such a long sigh in the morning, while he thinks angrily that it's because of this annoying goddess. Scolds her for smiling after all the chaos she caused, but the goddess cheerfully says that what's done is done and that they should move on. She reminds him not to put all his focus on, since there are still 4 other destined partners to consider. Warns that unless he bonds with one of them, he'll be forced to return to his original time, and the boy says she doesn't need to remind him. The goddess suggests that they look for the next candidate, but firmly declares that he doesn't care about anyone else besides. She calls him a fool for turning away potential partners, suggesting he's just scared and intimidated because of his lack of experience with women. When teasingly asks if it's because is the one for him, the boy panics, shouting that it's because is the only, and then suddenly cuts himself off. Greets him with a cheerful good morning and asks what he was saying about her, making stammer that it was nothing. Confused, she asks who he meant by her, since it's just the 2 of them there, and the boy awkwardly tries to hide his nervousness. Reminds that he's the only one who can see her, and he suddenly realizes he had completely forgotten that fact. The girl calls his name again, and in a panic, he blurts out that he was just talking to himself. She then starts bringing up what happened yesterday, making tense up. Visibly embarrassed, mentions how the cherry tree suddenly grew, and he desperately tries to convince her that they must just imagined it or been daydreaming. He insists that it must been an illusion since the tree disappeared afterward, and she seems to wonder if it really was a dream. He realizes, sweating nervously, that of course such a flimsy excuse wouldn't fool her. The girl reflects that even though the tree vanished, everything felt so real that she can't understand how it could have been possible. Remembering being grabbed by the branches, concludes that everything that happened shouldn't have been possible at all. Decides that maybe they were just seeing things and tells that, in any case, they still have committee work to do and should meet in the room that afternoon. With a shy smile and a blush on her face, she says goodbye, telling him she'll see him in class. Beaming, the boy replies that he will and that he'll see her later, thinking that this is yet another chance to get closer to. Suddenly, a voice calls out. A girl with twin tails approaches him with a smile and asks if she can talk to him for a second. She shows him the fish-shaped charm and asks if it's his, while wonders who she is. The girl explains that he dropped it in the club building yesterday, leaving him shocked and confused as to when that even happened. As he starts to thank her for picking it up, she leans in with a sly smile and asks if he knows something. With a lecturing tone, the girl tells him that when someone returns something you lost, it's customary to give a small thank you gift, like a drink, leaving completely baffled. As she walks away, she discreetly clips the charm to her skirt and he stands frozen, wondering who on earth that girl was. Comments that so that's what happened, and since wouldn't know her, he says that actually he does. The boy reacts in surprise, asking if he really knows her, and replies that he's more shocked that doesn't know who she is. His friend explains that she's from class 24, a prodigy who scored a perfect mark on her entrance exams, though thinks she didn't seem like the prodigy type at all. Warns him to be careful, saying there's also a rumor that she likes to hang out with all kinds of guys. The name rings a bell for her. A memory from his future flashes in his mind, a woman saying she's looking forward to working with him. The woman introduces herself as the newly appointed editor-in-chief. Then remembers seeing her once during a photo shoot for a manga magazine cover, where she served as the editor-in-chief. He reflects that, although he doesn't recall having any connection with her back in high school, the goddess did say he would have multiple candidates. His thought is confirmed when he sees a thread of fate connecting his hand to, realizing she's one of the girls tied to him. As reminds him that there are still 4 others to consider, he thinks that he doesn't want to do what the goddess says, but convinces himself that it's just buying her a drink and nothing more will come of it. Greets and thanks him for lending her his manga, leaving the boy surprised. He brightens up when he sees the manga, remembering how much he loved that series and even had a keychain of the main character. Invites him to have lunch together but politely declines, saying it's not like he can't eat alone. He thanks her for the invitation and says maybe another time and agrees. His friend's expression darkens, looking quietly displeased. Then walks toward classroom 24. Standing at the door with a drink can in his hand, he hesitates, visibly nervous. Spots him and calls out his name, sitting at a desk surrounded by other girls. The boy starts sweating nervously, wondering why there are so many around her. Two guys approach him, asking if he needs something and inviting him to come to the cafeteria, but he nervously declines. Intimidated, runs off, shouting that it was nothing, leaving the other students confused. He tries to convince himself that it's better to forget about everyone else since he still has committee work to do. Suddenly appears before him, furious. The goddess calls him a coward for wasting a chance granted by the gods and wonders aloud if she'll have to do everything herself, pulling out one of her tools, the wish granting. The heart-shaped plaque has a wish written on it, that they'll be alone together. In an instant, and find themselves alone in the classroom, both confused by what just happened. One of the girl's friends screams her name in shock when she realizes everyone else has disappeared. And stare at each other, surprised and far too close. The girl pushes him into a storage cabinet, reacting with a startled "A." Informs him mischievously that there's no point in resisting. Explains that with her wish granting, anything she writes on it becomes reality for about 10 minutes. The goddess confidently declares that he won't escape this time and challenges him to prove himself as a man. Trapped inside the cabinet, he realizes the door won't open and that no one seems to hear their shouts for help. The girl adds that she can't even reach her phone. Curses under his breath, realizing this must be another one of his tricks and that he needs to get out of there fast. He panics at the thought that he'll miss his meeting for the committee work. Asks what's going on and what did, finding it hard to believe that a flimsy cabinet door won't open with a bit of force. She teases him, noticing his face is as red as a tomato, and asks if he's really that sensitive to her presence, while the boy, flustered, begs her to keep some distance. Calling him innocent, she bets he's never been this close to a girl before, while thinks irritably that there's no reason for him to feel sensitive around her. As leans in even closer, he panics, telling himself to keep those kinds of thoughts out of his head. From inside the closet, shouts for them to let him out. On the outside, complains that she created a perfect situation for him and doesn't understand why he isn't doing anything. The goddess calls herself an incompetent blockhead before getting a brilliant idea. Suddenly says her body is getting very hot and her eyes gain a heart-shaped glint. With a flushed face and panting breath, the girl calls out for her. He asks if she's okay, and the girl replies that her body feels strange, while celebrates that the goddess is at it again and now they're finally getting somewhere. The girl wonders what's happening as the plaque reveals the wish, for the mood between them to get hot and steamy. Realizes he needs to keep her away, so as not to get her more aroused than she already is. With sparkling eyes, she whispers that she wants to touch her more. The girl asks what he thinks he's doing, continuing to touch her there and vehemently denies it, insisting that he isn't doing anything honestly. Gasps, wondering what she is saying. While the boy begs her to let him go, the girl thinks that she doesn't want him to touch her, and yet. She decides she doesn't care anymore and that she just wants to feel good. The girl pulls him closer, telling him not to hold back. Panting, says she can't wait any longer and begs her to hurry up. She asks him to make love to her, leaving in a complete panic. Suddenly, the closet door opens and they fall to the floor, as realizes their 10 minutes are up. On the floor, the girl pants, finally free from the spell. Suddenly pushes him away, startled. With her face completely red, she wonders what she was doing and how she could have done something so embarrassing. Apologizes, saying she couldn't control herself and didn't know what she was doing, and asks him to forget everything, while also apologizes. The girl accuses him of having something to do with the situation, mentioning that he kind of pulled at her clothes while he was panicking, and he vehemently denies it, as she reminds him that he was also squirming. He explodes, saying that he couldn't help it, as any guy would have acted that way with such a pretty girl, which surprises her. teases him, asking if he thinks she's pretty, and stammers that that's not what he meant while she laughs. With a smile and a blushing face, the girl says he's funny. The boy, surprised and blushing, repeats her words, asks for his name, wanting to know, and encourages him to say it. The girl explains that in case he didn't understand, she's offering to be his friend as she pulls his arm. Suddenly appears at the door, surprised to see them in that position. With a cold look, she scolds him, saying they had committee work, but he's here having fun with another girl, and desperately tries to explain that it's not what it looks like. With her face flushed with anger and hurt, calls him a shameless liar. She runs off and tries to stop her, jumping over a table to catch up to her. The boy desperately runs down the hallway after her. Watches him go, softly calling him. Scolds him for acting like the world has ended just because stopped talking to him, telling him to pull himself together. The goddess suggests that if one path fails, he should pursue the others, reminding him of the 4 potential lovers who are still waiting for him. Angrily shouts that he would never do that. He blames her stupid tools for the misunderstanding, saying that if it weren't for her, he would have gone to the committee work and none of this would have happened. The boy insists that he only has eyes for and to forget the others, and agrees not to use the tools anymore. With a sinister smile, she adds that she won't use the tools on him, that is. Feels relieved to have managed to stop the goddess from pulling any more stupid tricks, although he still doesn't know what thinks of him when someone calls out to him. It's who laughs at him and says he looks very disappointed. The girl follows him, asking if he isn't at least going to greet her back. He wonders, annoyed, why she is talking to him while asks if he's listening. The girl pulls him, telling him to stop ignoring her, and then notices the keychain on his bag. Shouts the character's name and explains that it's the limited edition from the 100th volume, leaving her excited that it's the only one she still doesn't have. He asks, surprised, if is an otaku, and she becomes completely shocked and flushed. The girl vehemently denies it, asking what makes him think that, and he points out that she knows the series title, to which she replies that just because she read Panther Spirit doesn't mean anything. Says it makes sense that she wouldn't want people to know she's an otaku, and denies it in a panic, insisting that she isn't. He then says he thought she was a fellow otaku and was going to give her the keychain as a gift, but since she's a popular student, she doesn't need such a plain-looking character. Starts to walk away, saying that she doesn't need such a plain-looking character after all, and stammers that's not what she meant. With a flushed face, the girl timidly admits that actually she is, and he grumbles impatiently. Then hands her the keychain, telling her to take it, and asks, surprised, if he's serious. With a radiant smile of pure happiness, she thanks him. The girl declares that from now on she'll do him a favor and be his otaku friend, adding that he should be happy, considering how few friends he has. He tries to tell her that's not quite it. Suddenly appears, asking what they're shouting about right in front of the gates, which surprises. Apologizes too and says goodbye to her, saying see you later, while shouts that there won't be a see you later. The boy sighs, frustrated, wondering why this is happening, while his friend watches him with a serious look. Calls his attention to the girl from before and says that they should also go to class, and agrees hesitantly. Sees entering the room and tells to go on ahead. He follows her to the library. The boy approaches her, calling her name, and turns around. An awkward silence settles between them as the girl sits down and starts to work. Realizes that she's still angry and that anything he says will sound like an excuse. Not knowing what else to do, he finally apologizes for what happened yesterday. The girl surprises him by saying that she isn't upset and that she knows he couldn't go to the committee room because he got into some trouble again. Then scolds him, demanding that, from now on, he be present 5 minutes before the work starts and let her know if he's going to be late. While the boy thinks that she's obviously upset, the girl adds that if he keeps his promise. With a shy look and a blushing face, offers to be a model for his photos. Says embarrassed for him not to get the wrong idea, as she isn't doing it for him, but because she has a modeling job soon. She explains that she thought it would be good practice, and reflects in disbelief that is offering to be a model for his photos. The boy remembers how, in his previous life, he never managed to get close to her. Now, with a blushing face, he can barely believe he will have the chance to take photos of her. The girl presses him, asking if he has any objections, and he vehemently denies it, saying he has none at all. Enthusiastically says he would love to take her photos. stammers that he must then make sure to keep his promise and be on time, and the boy agrees excitedly. He thanks her and promises to take the best photos he can, and the girl replies yes, as long as he keeps his promise. The bell rings and realizes that class is starting. Calls for them to go and he promptly replies yes. At lunchtime, watches, who is visibly happy and distracted. His friend asks how long he's going to have his head in the clouds and realizes it's already lunchtime, hastily getting up to go to the committee. He admits with a laugh that his head is a bit in the clouds and says goodbye, telling him he'll see him later. Runs into in the hallway and the two exchange shy glances. Watching them from afar, ponders his friend's response. With a radiant smile, the boy thinks that this is the best day ever. He firmly resolves that he never thought the day would come when he'd be taking photos of, but now he won't give up on his dream or his love. Scolds him for being late and who had almost forgotten about her, asks what kind of stupid tool she is using this time, but the goddess assures him that she won't use her tools on him. The boy feels relieved, but then he realizes what she said and wonders what the stupid goddess is planning this time when calls out to him. His friend approaches and asks who he was just talking to, leaving completely shocked. Tries to play it off, telling that he was just talking to himself about what he accomplished in the committee today. He realizes in a panic that his friend doesn't believe him. The boy changes the subject, inviting to a convenience store to get something to eat, but he wonders why his tactic isn't working. Presses him, asking if there's something he can't tell his best friend, and confused, asks what he's talking about. His friend finally agrees to go to the convenience store, to his relief. Suddenly grabs him by the tie, leaving him completely shocked. He says he'll go, but only after kisses him. A glowing thread of fate appears, connecting his hand to his chest and screams in shock. His friend repeats that he'll only go after he kisses him. Tells him to stop joking around since they're both guys, but replies that he likes girls and that, if that's the case, there's no problem. Reveals with a radiant smile that it's because she's also a woman. Comments that, as expected, he still hadn't realized but is a girl. It's revealed that, even in the future, she never stops thinking about him. A memory from the future shows the boy being watched from her apartment. An older greets him, saying "welcome home" while holding a camera. Her room is covered in photos of him, and she fondly thinks of his name. Reflects that no matter how much he loves, unless the love is mutual, their fates won't be joined. Instead, it was easier to achieve mutual love between him and who has had feelings for him since childhood. The goddess thinks with a sly smile that, if he learns of her feelings, she will also end up occupying his thoughts more. Suddenly, surprises him from behind, placing a handkerchief over his mouth and incapacitating him. Watches in shock as puts in a black car, calling her. In the back seat of the car, the girl holds his head in her lap. With a flushed face, she whispers his name and says that, from now on, they will be together forever. The goddess screams in disbelief as the car speeds away. The car arrives at a large, traditional Japanese mansion. Wakes up confused, wondering what happened. He hears a metallic sound as he moves. The boy sits up, shocked to find that his wrists and ankles are chained. Enters the room wearing a kimono and asks if it's him. She watches him from above, saying that he's been so strange lately. Confronts him, saying that he suddenly got close to, and even though she was the only one who was by his side and who really knows him. Asks if she's really a girl and starts to unbutton her blouse, explaining her family's tradition of dressing girls as boys when they are young. The girl adds that she then realized that, if she kept dressing as a boy, she could always be by his side. He shouts in a panic, telling her to wait and pointing at her clothes. With a dark and possessive look, thinks that those girls are too close to her. She leans over him and confesses that she has always loved him, leaving completely stunned by the mention of love. A memory from the past shows other children mocking a young, calling her germs disgusting and telling the others not to get close to her. The bullies cruelly tell her to get out of the way. A young then holds out his hand and invites her to play together, and she accepts. Back in the present, obsessively declares how much she loves him, insisting that she's the only one who loves him this much, to his complete horror. Smiles sweetly at him, saying that they will be together forever. Panics, wondering why things ended up like this, since she only wanted him to pay more attention to. The goddess shouts that kidnapping is a crime. In a fantasy, dressed in dominatrix clothes, tells that, from now on, he will be her cute little pig. Kneeling in just his underwear, he agrees to lick her boots. Whips him, shouting that pigs can't talk, while he begs for forgiveness. Fantasizes about the scene, finding it all very extreme, but thinks that if it continues like this, he'll end up with which isn't a problem. The goddess then realizes that, since hasn't confessed, their destinies won't allow them to end up together, with a newfound determination, declares that she needs to go help him and asks for him to wait for her.